Chief Justice Mogoeng earlier on in the EFF, UDM and the COPE, their appeal or bid to now, to impeach the president. And the motion, of course, so far, breaking news just coming in, the judgment has been reserved in the president impeachment case. And we'll ventilate that with our studio guest, Professor Sipho Siepe, still stays with us. Putsang Muilwa is a political analyst and Adil Nchabeling is the Transform RSA president. Good evening to you and thanks so much for joining us. I just quickly wanted to react to what Judge Mogoeng, seemingly very much guiding the opposition and wanting to take this matter back to to Parliament as he's done with the secret ballot. Your observation, Putsang?
Well, good evening, Cindy and fellow panelists and NN7 viewers. This is said that they're supposed to be lawmakers of the country. When the nation elects people to go into the National Assembly, into Parliament, they're supposed to be lawmakers. That's their role and responsibility. And it's very sad that a Chief Justice of the country, of the Concourt, is sitting there and teaching lawmakers what they are supposed to do. Processes that they are supposed to know, that they are privy to, before any law and practices of this country come into the public fora. They've got the privilege of experiencing them first, changing them and amending them. He is actually sitting there, and I was having a conversation with Nchabeling to say, actually what the Chief Justice has become the principal of the opposition, to tell them that you have a constitution. It defines clearly what your roles are, what you're supposed to be doing in the National Assembly, but you are running to us in courts and you are asking us to help you on duties that you are supposed to know. That's what Chief Justice was saying to them. They should have done this in there. Nothing had forbidden them. Nothing had stopped the opposition to challenge, question, cross-examine, and tear apart the Speaker, the President, and anybody else within the National Assembly. They don't do that. They actually decide to make noise and scream and walk out of Parliament, some of them, and then they run to courts for the courts to help them. That's not how constitutional democracy works. Whether
all the avenues and channels have been exhausted adequately to deal with the issue of impeaching the president, that for me was also not satisfactorily answered, at least from the opposition.
Yes, indeed it was not, and good evening to all the viewers. The issue right now is actually the frustration that opposition parties find themselves in. They have failed with the motion of no confidence. Now they are bringing in a motion of impeachment, which actually in our rules does not exist except for the basis that says that Parliament has the powers to decide if they can actually accept that a motion of impeachment can be debated. And upon being debated, it must be actually given to the ballot within Parliament to be decided by a two-thirds majority, which in this case, the opposition parties do not even enjoy and do not hold. So that's the one aspect of it. So running to the courts is a deliberate move, in this case, by opposition parties to again show that they are trying by all means to undermine the ruling party, which is the ANC. Secondly, to undermine the president, which is the president in the sitting. And furthermore, to insult the Speaker of Parliament in this case, because they are saying Baleka Mbete, as the Speaker of Parliament, has failed and has been derelict in her duties in ensuring that she can hold the president to account. So that's a very interesting debate actually coming out of this particular debate.
But would you say that it was an epic failure on the EFF, UDM and COPE, but primarily more the EFF, or was it to force the court now to make a declaration that Parliament must impeach the president based on the issues of not being held accountable, violating the Constitution, etc., in order to then bolster their case for future impeachment processes, if that will come? Professor Siepe.
Yeah, first of all, normally in mature democracies, a case like this will not be entertained by any court, especially a Supreme Court or the Constitutional Court, because the Constitution is very clear about roles. The removal of the president, it's a political process where parties in Parliament begin to start debating, and they make that is not a legal process. So the parties have tried a number of times to remove the president. So what you see here is an attempt to enlist the services and support of the court for a motion or for an agenda, a political agenda that they had failed to carry out. So the court must actually express it as simple as that, that you have parliament where you have political battles where they are fought, and you have a judiciary whose job is to make sure that there's a legal and judgments that are made against transgressions. But when the political process fails, it cannot be right that the court is being brought. Hence, the notion of overreaching comes in. So the court itself must be very careful about not allowing itself to be abused. But I do think that the Constitutional Court decided to look at this more as a way of saying we need to have a finalization, especially in this young democracy, so that these things do not continue to come. So this is where we are at the moment. And the Chief Justice was also able to tell them that, first of all, and I don't think I was even happy with some of the questions, because it assumes that if people don't get their way, they can approach the court. In a political battle, let the political battles be fought in a political space, in a political arena.
Yeah.
And the courts must desist from participation in a political agenda, because if they do that, sooner or later, people will have no respect for the courts.
Yeah. In a way, did you felt maybe a bit of agitation from Chief Justice, where you were saying we've created this environment where if the one motion of no confidence have failed or any other attempt, we know we're going to get him through this process.
I don't think he could be agitated. You could feel it when you pay, but the judiciary, he's supposed to be impartial and try and contain himself. But Cindy, it is not, and I heard Unchabeleng was saying, it is undermining the president and the ruling party. Let me tell you what this process is actually doing, which is worse than undermining the president, because we know that the opposition has no respect to the sitting head of state, and we live with it. We don't have to sit here and protect Jacob Zuma as the head of state anymore. He has done well, he has defended himself, he has outclassed the opposition. What do we should protect and bring the message to our people? It's democracy, and the people of the Republic of South Africa, the voters, are actually under attack. They are being undermined because there's a constitution of the country, there's a National Assembly, which is there to protect the interest of the majority of the voters. 20 million people, approximately, went into the votes in 2019. Now, this elected people in Parliament, in the National Assembly, they are ignoring what power they were given by the electorate. They were given power by the electorate to say, go to the National Assembly, make laws, change laws. They are ignoring all that. They are rushing to courts. Who is under attack is no longer Jacob Zuma. The people of South Africa, the Constitution of South Africa, whether we are happy with it or not, it's under attack from the opposition, because they now want to derail from a constitutional process and use other means, abusing the courts. And I hope in this instance, the Chief Justice as well as the Concourt will come with a clear, precise decision so that these people must not come back to court again after they have failed in this process.
Let's look at the one argument that after the Public Protector's report on the Nkandla matter, the accusation or argument is that the Speaker then failed to institute mechanisms or put that in place to hold the President accountable. In your view, deliberations here from the Constitutional Court?
The deliberations out of the Constitutional Court is actually what they are presenting right now is actually quite a misrepresentation. The Speaker considered, remember in April 2016 last year, after the Public Protector's matter as well as the Constitutional Court matter came out, then the Speaker was presented with a motion. There was a motion in Parliament that said that they are doing a motion of impeachment, which failed dismally as well because he couldn't actually get the two-thirds majority vote. So let's tell our people the truth. Every time opposition parties in South Africa failed to get some kind of a reprieve or relief out of a process, they then go around and re-agitate again, same tactics and same principles that had failed previously. So 2016 April, if you go to records, you'll see the same impeachment process was taken up again, and it was brought into Parliament as a motion for impeachment of the President. And that motion failed again because the opposition party could not get enough supporters to that particular motion. So every time, 8 attempts, by the way, to impeach as well as remove President Jacob Zuma. The motion of no confidence, which happened on the 8th of August, was at the 8th attempt. So you have parties that fail for 8 times.
Yeah, but we cannot say
lifespan.
out of this particular attempt, you know, that the court may necessarily rule. There are certain things that if you go back to the secret ballot vote, what that had done is now compel the Speaker of Parliament. Otherwise, she'd be facing all sorts of litigation.
Because
if she didn't, implement the
secret of to actually urge Parliament. That is why actually Judge Mogoeng as well, President Judge said very clearly that you must understand as opposition parties applicants coming to the Constitutional Court, urging us to give you a platform which you already have in your constituency powers. Why are you not using the structures that are provided to you? This actually shows you that opposition parties are sleeping on their own desks. They are not doing their thorough work. Why do they have to go to court to be given further clarity on something that they already have as powers? And secondly is the declaration order to say that the Speaker must do X, Y, Z was the same declaration order that was sought when the motion of no confidence was brought before the Constitutional Court. And that same motion failed. So you have a situation whereby the opposition parties in South Africa do not care about the people of South Africa. They are not advancing the economic issues relating to the ruling party. They have never brought the ANC to account to say, why are you not making sure that you give a better life to the people? Why are you not making sure that there's infrastructure?
Just hold that thought.
So that's the issues that we must debate.
We have Nomusa Pongola. She is an ANN7 reporter who is outside the Constitutional Court. Nomusa, thanks so much for joining us. We know that the judgment had been reserved earlier on. What can you tell us in the latest development? Any word?
Well, thank you so much, Cindy. Good afternoon to you. And, of course, good evening to our viewers. It has been quite a very lengthy day here at the Constitutional Court, where we saw different parties arguing for their case, where we saw the applicants saying that the Speaker actually, the main argument of all applicants was that the Speaker should establish an ad hoc committee that is going to ensure that the President is held accountable, saying that they must allow the President to give his side of the story, and there must be an investigation or an inquiry as to if the president's actions, how serious they were, and if those actions they equal to impeachment. They can't just take the public protector's report as well as the order of this court that said the president had violated his oath of office. He has failed to protect and uphold the constitution of the country. So they want this inquiry to take place in a manner of an ad hoc committee, which is going to consist different parties, which is a multi-party committee. However, there was a concern raised by the Chief Justice in that matter, Cindy, saying that how independent will that ad hoc committee be? Because there are some parties or some members of parliament that don't have a positive relationship with the president. Will now be the president be subjected to now respond to people that have negative relations with him? So the applicants have said that at the end of the day, they understand that the African National Congress is the majority in parliament. They don't exactly themselves feel confident enough about that ad hoc committee. However, it should be this court that should rule as to what exactly should be done. But the Constitutional Court has made it clear that the Parliament has its own rules, the current rules, which, of course, even the applicants agreed that the current rules can be used to actually deal with the matter, to actually deal with the impeachment matter of the president. There is no need for them to come to the Constitutional Court. However, one main argument was that the EFF, for example, which was the first applicant, they've said that they've went to the Speaker numerous times, 3 times to be precise. However, the Speaker has rejected their application or their proposal to have this ad hoc committee or to have this committee that is going to deal with investigating, having a thorough investigation as to how exactly did the president conduct himself and how serious were those cases or what were his actions that could lead to impeachment. However, when it went on, when the court went on for the whole day, we also saw now the Democratic Alliance now saying that what they want, they just want the court to make sure that they give a clear interpretation of Section 89, Cindy.
All right. Nomusa, thanks so much. He's been there all day. Nomusa Pongola, ANN7 reporter outside Constitutional Court. Of course, a very eventful day with two events happening in tandem. One of the impeachment, the dissolution of Parliament as well. Just coming back to where the court finds itself here and what I think this case hinders and rests on what the declaratory order will be. Correct. Whether they can establish a commission of inquiry, whether they can do an internal process. But if the court doesn't declare outright on that, we're back to a stalemate.
Yeah, I think there's a political trick here that the EFF is actually playing. They say, give us an opportunity to establish the facts. And the facts is about whether there's a serious violation so that we can have the constitutional process to deal with Section 89, where we say the president had failed, or another section that will deal with the impeachment. But what they want to do is to sustain the narrative around the president. Yeah. And this is deliberate because they are aware that the ANC has shown itself or shown weaknesses within itself. So they say, let's exploit that process. And the court was saying, but the issue of establishment of either wrongdoing, the court has made the judgment, and there is also what is it that you're going to investigate? Now they're saying, no, but we want to see how serious it is so that we can then, but the whole idea is that let's create a process around Jacob Zuma. So what you see here is, again, the opposition that had become obsessed with Jacob Zuma, that they are no longer able to do political work outside that space.
All right, well, let's invite, I beg your pardon, but Billy Tsotesi is ANC political commissar. Tsotesi, thanks so much for joining us. A monumental failure or a smart move by the opposition with this impeachment process that the EFF, UDM and Co brought about?
Now, I think this time you have got it wrong. Why I'm saying that? Look, in America, the impeachment is enshrined in the constitution of the country. In our case, it's not the case. We don't have it in our constitution, this impeachment. Actually, this impeachment is normally applied to the highest authority of the country if they feel that he was guilty about something, which is a serious crime like wrongfully taking the money and sometimes high treason and all those things, especially the vice president, the president, as well as the senators. They are subject to that particular term, impeachment. So, but in our South African democracy, I've tried to check the constitution. What it has is only no confidence vote. If you look closely in this no confidence vote, the manner in which it's operating it's nearly like the American one. What needs to happen? It means they must get the two-thirds majority in the National Assembly. Now, in terms of the America, it is called the Representative House of Representatives, and these are the people who've got the right to enter into that particular impeachment process. There's no other person.
Huang did warn that, we need to adopt, obviously, or stay with the confines or preamble of what the law provides. It's just please stay on the line. But
I want to talk about the committee, establishment of the committee. Again, the opposition is wrong. And Prof is correct when he says what they want to do is to corner the president to a point where he will say something towards that committee that he never said before. Then they will go back to court. But to establish a parliamentary committee, there's rules and processes. The African National Congress, where the president comes from, is the majority party in parliament. In that committee, the ANC will have majority members. What the opposition is hoping for is that some of the people who are disgruntled within the ruling party, they are hoping that those people may end up in this parliamentary committee. But I don't think any judge in court will resort to it. The judge cannot determine to go and establish a parliamentary committee. No, that will be totally wrong. It is the constitutional prerogative of the Speaker of Parliament as well as MPs to decide whether they need a special committee or not. And in this instance, the majority of the votes in Parliament will decide whether they need a new and additional committee or not. And I don't think the ANC is going to let that happen.
If you recall, Cindy, in Brazil, They did exactly the same thing out of a motion of non-motion of impeaching of the president, Rousseff, Dilma Rousseff. It's exactly the same ploy that is used in South Africa for regime change as well as a color revolution. So there's nothing different in this opposition party stance and activities. All
right. Well, of course, find the final word from the Constitutional Court. And thanks indeed to our guests for joining us, Adil Nchabeleng, Transform RSA President, Botang Mwelwa, political analyst, and Professor Sipho Siepe, political analyst, and Rep Bilitso Detsi, ANC political commissar. To stay with us, I will be back just after the short break.